this whole week I've been saying, well, what do you want to talk about in the podcast? What do you want to talk about? And I never got an answer from you. So, so I took matters into my own hands and I picked a topic this morning. Had it all printed out, questions ready to go for when you came in. And turns out that was what you did want to talk about. You were coming in to tell me that was the topic we were going to do. So
only decided this morning.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie and say I had it prepped yesterday. So we decided this morning what we're going to talk about today separately, decided on the same thing.
Yeah.
Without talking.
Today we wanted to talk about sales specifically. I kind of came up with these questions because based off of the prompt of the psychology of sales, because I think we've spoken loads about sales in the past and we've done quite a few episodes on sales specifically, but I think there's so many different factors that make up sales.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say are the psychological principles?
What do you mean?
Do you want me to finish the question?
Oh, sorry. You may speak.
Thank you so much.
You may speak.
What would you say are the psychological principles that underlie success in face-to-face sales?
It's got to be someone there's got to be somebody who is obsessive.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be somebody who. We're talking about somebody who's exceptional, right? We're going to talk about exceptional people.
Well, I don't think rubbish people are going to be successful.
But you can talk about average, right?
Oh, success.
You need to be somebody who is obsessive by nature. ADHD fits in quite well with sales, although you can not have it and still be good at sales. I think it's somebody who. I don't think it's somebody. I know it's people who have more of a winning mentality than a losing mentality, and it has to be someone, even whether they're in a job or not, it has to be somebody with an entrepreneurial nature. What I mean by that is it has to be somebody who's always thinking about growth, and somebody who hates glass ceilings, and it has to be someone who hates being told what to do. The best salespeople are hard to manage.
Yeah, true.
Because they're very independent, stubborn, obsessive people. So it makes them quite hard to manage.
Yep, that is all we have around us.
But that makes someone good. That makes someone good, right? So, yeah. I don't know if that answers the questions of psychological principles, but that's the mindset of somebody, I think. And it has to be someone who is, this might be more practical than psychological, but someone who's, I'm going to say, a sick work ethic. And it doesn't mean they work long hours. It just means when we were talking about being efficient there, somebody who can get hyper-focused, which is why I say ADHD is a good thing for it, because someone who's good can also hyper-focus. And when they get focused and put that energy into something, they could be quite dangerous people in a positive way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's important to know that everything that we are going to be talking about today is based off of face-to-face sales.
Yep.
And that interaction of someone when you're in person with them. We probably will do another episode at some point down the line of the online world and like online
as
sales.
face-to-face, we get them on Zoom. So everything that I would say here actually is applicable when you're actually closing a deal online. If you're doing remote selling, it's still applicable.
Yeah.
No?
But there is also loads of different forms of it.
I'm saying, but if you're talking about specifically
pitch.
Closing someone you can get in front of you face-to-face, even if it's through a Google Meet or a Zoom, it's the same principles, same psychology. So,
but I would say a website is a sales pitch. I would say your ads online.
No, that's what I mean. I'm talking about. We can talk about online, but closing somebody remotely on Zoom. So face-to-face doesn't mean you have to be reading the same air as the person. No. Face-to-face to me means you have to be able to look the person in the eye. That's what I mean. So yeah, there's loads of other stuff, but we can definitely talk about like doing remote sales.
Yeah. So how does the human connection then affect sales, would you say?
People are emotional by nature, and your emotions are how you feel, and people give off energy. So if you've got people around you, you're going to get a feel for good and bad energy. So during lockdown, actually, I genuinely never knew face-to-face sales was ever going to be a thing again. They had us all staying away from each other, not being able to touch each other, disinfecting ourselves before we touch people, not allowed to kiss, not allowed to breathe, not allowed to do it. You weren't allowed to do anything.
I was in heaven.
Yeah, you like that. I'm a hugger. I miss hugs, right? And if I'm telling the truth, I still took loads and thought I'd suffer, right? But during lockdown, we generally didn't know if face-to-face interactions with consumers was going to come back. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
And then so there was and then we came back into the face-to-face selling world. I remember the first day we sent people out obviously all the sales reps that we ran were really excited that they could go work again, even though we had masks on, we had to socially distance ourselves with people. But we ran door-to-door teams at the time, and when we put the door-to-door people, I remember actually sitting going, I think I said, I just don't know what's going to happen today.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we were going to have this huge backlash online of us going and try to communicate with people face to face, and with a higher sales average. So the same product we were selling pre-COVID, we were selling the same product for nearly double the price, and we had double the average, which was weird. And so I think when people took talking to people face to face and being able to interact with other people for granted, it got taken away from us. We appreciated it and realised how unhappy we were when we weren't in social environments. So I actually think it was a positive thing for face-to-face interactions. So I think people are always going to buy from people. Why do people still go to restaurants and retail stores? You don't have to. You don't have to. You can get a delivery guy to come, but they go because of the culture. And what is the culture? It's how it makes people feel, and what makes people feel emotions, and what gives people emotions, communication and connection. So there's always going to be a people element there, which is why I'm not scared of the AI apocalypse. Yeah, the AI can do it, but it can't yet. AGI in the future, which we're not a podcast about AI or AGI, but AGI in the future might be able to portray human emotions and come across quite empathetic, but that's a long way away. But people are tribal by nature, we're social animals by nature, so there's always going to be an element as human being and a connect. We actually crave it. We actually enjoy it. I mean, some people you don't enjoy specifically, in some conversations you don't enjoy, but I think face-to-face, I think when you do face-to-face sales, you can personalise things a little bit, and there is a human connection versus telesales or versus like email marketing or versus, SMS or any other form of sales where there's no human and human. I think that the human and human element, you can definitely tap into emotions a wee bit more, get a connection, and I think you can personalise and make it more of a meaningful interaction.
Yeah. And I think there's so many different little add-ons to the sales experience when you're in person.
Oh God, yeah.
One of them being like body language. So what effect was body language have in an effective sales pitch?
Depending on what data you read, human interactions, it goes between, depending on whose study you read, between 60 and 80% of all conversations are non-verbal. So if you take, like if we were to, when you, I'll show you an example of this, and I'll explain an example. I don't know if you've experienced it, where you went to a country where you don't speak the language, but somehow you find a way of communicating and asking somebody for directions without being able to speak to them. Because you can point and use your body language, and even when you if you smile or frown, and watch how people mirror you. So we communicate through body language. So I think body language, your ability to read people's body language and your ability to use non-verbal things to influence people, I think is a superpower face-to-face. Whereas when I do online sales or when I'm not in front of somebody, or I do telesales, I don't have that. There's so much you can do there's so much you pick up on about people with body language, but there's so many things you can do to influence people's actions through using your body and not your words. Most people that get into sales think it's about being a good talker. That's a small percentage of it.
Yeah. And I think I think there's so much that can be said without saying things.
100%.
And there's so much that like a conversation can be had without actually saying any words.
Yeah. When I want somebody to leave my room in the office, I just stand up and start walking towards the door, and I know the conversation's finished. Never have to tell them we're finished. They just walk up and walk out the door. I don't ever say it.
Walk them out.
Some of the more clever sales reps click.
Yeah.
Some of the more clever sales people like realise what I'm doing, but I just, when I want a conversation, we finish, I stand up and walk back towards the door, and people tend to stop talking and start walking out of the room without them ever saying it.
Yeah.
Shows you how easy it is to influence or I just look at my watch. Like I've done telesales, and I've done people in front of me, and people in front of me. It's much easier to build rapport, and we can get into that a wee bit more with body. You can actually use body language to build rapport with people. So yeah, body language for me is a superpower if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And so why do you think we still value that in-person interaction, especially when we are in such a digital age?
Because if you think about it, when you meet a nice person, how does it make you feel? When you meet somebody, if you go and shop in a retail shop and you have a nice wee conversation and you really like somebody, and you would go back and say they were lovely, how does it make you feel when you're talking to them?
Yeah, good.
Lovely. dopamine. It's feeding into your human nature.
Mm-hmm.
You're social junkie, you're tribal. So when you talk to somebody that you like, you get wee dopamine, you get a nice feeling. So you associate talking to people with making you feel good. Now when you talk to the opposite, then obviously associate it with the opposite. But I think people still feed off other people. If you believe in energy, you don't have to believe in it as science. Now, I'm big into energy. So when I'm around other people with similar energy, it feeds me a wee bit. I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy, and as much as whether people believe that or don't believe in energy and think it's airy-fairy, you talk about vibrations and energy, it's actually, but it's science. I enjoy being around people like me. Now, the trick to sales is to make everybody feel like you're them and getting the same wavelength, and we can talk about that as well and learning how to adapt to their wavelength so that, you know, when you just meet somebody and you're like, oh, just get a good feeling for them. When you get into a social, you're like, they says hello.
Yeah.
You don't even talk to them. They're in the same group. They're at dinner or whatever. You don't really have a conversation. You go home and somebody's like, oh, what's your thoughts on that person? You go, I don't know. I just get a good feeling from them. You get, and that proves the energy. How do you know they're good? They just seem like a good person. Why? You never ask them any questions.
Yeah.
Or bad vibe, the opposite. So we feel, so when you're around people and it's the right people you're around and they give off the right vibes for you, then it gives you a good feeling. So we enjoy it. And then there's other part where some people just, you know, are sweetie wives and love gossiping and love being around people for good. So whatever. But you, if you were to take verbal out of the whole conversation, if you're just standing, do you ever just start a conversation with somebody in a bus or a train or for no reason other than you sat beside them and you just knew you could talk to them? It happened to me in a plane last week. Guy sat beside me and I usually keep myself to myself and I started the conversation. I got good vibes and we just talked the whole flight.
You started it. You normally love not talking to people on flights.
Because a lot of people aren't on the same page. I don't know why. It turns out the guy runs his own tyre business. He's an ex-parachute regiment. He was in the paras in the army. I hooked up with him on LinkedIn. I don't usually make friends easy.
Oh my God, you're like friends.
But he sat down and he just says hi and I got good vibes and I just had a good feeling and I started talking to him. But I couldn't tell the last person I started a conversation with in a plane.
Yeah.
So being beside someone, breathing the same air and being in proximity of the person, I think can have a positive influence and more than talking to someone over the phone or through an email can.
Would you say that there's particular psychological triggers that can boost your face-to-face sales?
100%. I don't just think in face-to-face, there's just general psychological triggers that anybody that understands marketing and sales in any capacity, from TV commercials, SMS, email, writing copy on a website, doing a meta ad, doing a Google ad, anybody who's good at any of that stuff understands that there's things that psychologically trigger people to take action. Yes, we all have different psychological triggers. They're called different things. Corporate world, some people call, like we have this thing called fear of loss, and it just means that it's the fear of missing out on something. Rolex will call it scarcity, or scarcity they call it. Is it the Americans will call it scarcity? Do we call it scarcity? Is it scarcity? We'll say scarcity, right?
I think it's, yeah. I mean, I've heard both of them.
When something's ready scarce, right?
Yeah.
Rolex use it. Ferrari use it. All these high-end brands, Ottomans Peugeot use it, Patek, all these watch, sorry, we're talking a lot of watch companies here. They realised that when they called something limited and put a waiting list in front of something, it added more value to it. The less of something you make, the more valuable, because it creates this, it's called a fear of missing out. You don't need the Rolex, but the fear of not getting it because it's so scarce actually causes you to make it triggers a decision. So it's things that trigger people to take action, and fear of loss is one thing they use. We actually use, sorry, I'm going to explain this. Everybody actually knows how to sell naturally. And when we explain this to people, it seems like a whole new concept. But I explain how they used it as a kid. Kids are, if you watch, again, I've got loads of kids, as we're saying, all these podcasts, right? And if you want to see something natural, just watch a kid. When a kid does something that no one ever taught it means it's natural instinct, right? And we naturally use things to trigger people to get them to do stuff. Why do babies smile at parents? So they love them and don't give them away. Why are our eyes now the same size when we're born as to when even Mother Nature knows how to sell, because your eyes are the same size just now as they were when you were born. That's why babies have got big eyes. And the purpose of Mother Nature give them big eyes so they look cute. And the reason they look cute is so that whoever's looking at them loves them and doesn't discard them when they're born. Mad. So and then you think the kids very quickly learn that if they smile at you, they get their own way. If they love you and play in your greed. You think about it when you're a kid, like if you says to your dad you wanted something, I'll show you fear of loss as a kid, right? So if you fear of loss your dad on your affection, your love and your time.
Yeah.
Because when dad didn't give you something, and I'm not saying you did this, but a lot of people do it. If you don't do it, I'm not talking to you. Doesn't need you to talk to him, but the fear of you not talking or loving him, and as kids start playing this, kids realise there's a wee trigger. So it's the fear of loss. If you think about situations where you're arguing with someone, like if you don't change this, I'll leave. And sometimes that happens in relationships that probably should be finished anyway. Person doesn't actually want to be with the person, but the fear of not having them causes them to react and go, I'll fix it. And so that's what fear of loss is. And if you look at it normal retail, if you look on QVC, the fear of missing out is if you look at something like QVC, it's a countdown. We had 100, we got 4 left. So there's only 4 left. Last day of sale. And then you get the next day and you see sale extended.
Maybe this is the last day.
Yeah. It's just it's scarcity. It's the fear of missing out. It's FOMO. These days people call it FOMO, right? Okay, FOMO. I don't want to go, but I'm scared not to go in case I miss something. Yeah. That's fear of loss. That's a trigger that causes you to take action in your day-to-day life. So it's a human trigger. So I wouldn't even say it is used in sales, but it's you can use it with your kids, your partner, whatever. Sales is communication, as we say loads of times. So if you actually learn how to use this in sales, it makes you great with wife, kids. You actually get more things that you want. Although if your wife, like mine, has been in sales, she knows. She goes, don't try and fear of loss me.
She knows your game.
She knows the game, man. She knows the game. Other psychological triggers would include creating a little sense of urgency with people. People are terrible decision makers. And again, I'll give you an example in life. A couple's going to go to the movies, and we do this test sometimes with people, and to prove that people are terrible decision makers, says, if you ever wanted to go see a movie and ended up not going because none of the two of you could pick what to go see, and everybody does this, yep, definitely done that. If you ever get in an argument and not went out to a restaurant because nobody could decide on what restaurant, yep, everybody does it. So, but creating a little sense of urgency, and you'll see this again, like a sense of urgency. If you watch QVC, really good if you want to learn sales, watch these shopping channels. It has a timer. If you're going to buy tickets for a concert now, what's it got? You've got 10 minutes, which creates the fear of loss and the fear of missing out. You get 10 minutes left to get out of this price, but that causes and people would experience this buying a ticket. There's a sense of urgency, and a sense of urgency stops you thinking about reasons not to buy the ticket. That's why that's there, because you go on the website, and a website, you're probably sitting in your chair like, I wonder if I go to the concert, and you go on, and like 280 quid for a ticket. There were 100. I don't know if I want to go to a concert. And then this wee thing in Ticketmaster and the rest of it comes up and goes, you have 9 minutes to buy it at this price. They do it with holidays now. And I've seen myself, some people would think it as a panic where you start to rush about, but that's what they've done. They've created a sense of urgency. They've created a sense of, I need to do this now. That's a sense of urgency. You can do that with people by looking at your watch, tapping your fingers when you're talking to them. It means hurry up. You can use verbal things when you're doing it, like hurry up and quick and come on, or put a time frame on it. Okay, cool. So we need to decide whether we're going to move forward with this today or not. We've got like a minute. And look at your watch, and you're creating a sense of now. The same way I've done it in Ticketmaster. I don't know about you. When you're trying to buy tickets for something and the timer comes up, and you start going, "Where's my bank card?"
Yeah.
Whereas if it told you you had 30 minutes, you'd sit and go, "Yeah, what? Wait a minute. Do I really want it? Should I get it tomorrow?" And £280. What could I spend the £280 on? We're actually quite negative by nature. So the more time, and the other thing I explain to people as well. Have you ever, or the analogy I give to people when I'm explaining this to prove it's human nature, I'm like, have you ever bought something and regretted it in a sale because you took it quick because it says it was like the last one in the rack, and then they created a fear of loss, you reacted, you take it, you go straight to the till, you buy it, you go home and regret it. Most people put their hands up. Cool. Have you ever been in the same situation where it was the last one, you picked it up, but then it was a big queue, you stood in the queue, you decided halfway down the queue you actually didn't need it and put it back in the rack, and everybody's hands goes up. I'm like, that's because you get too much time to think about it and you talk yourself out of it. So creating a wee sense of urgency and putting a time frame on things makes people better decision makers, but it triggers people to make the decision, because if you give people time, some people will never decide, man.
Yeah.
That's urgency. And then there's another one called greed. And greed is people's natural desire. They want more for less. We're greedy by nature. We definitely want more for less. If you go to a buffet, Nobody ever just gets enough food at a buffet. They always overeat because they feel like they get more value for money. That's why we like
Cheating the
sales so much. Yeah. Greed shows when someone's like, oh, you paid £100 for that. You're like, yeah, but I saved 200. Do you know what I mean? We're actually greedy. We're greedy for love. We're greedy. So when you're doing sales, you're not just like I used to do a lot of sales, and I used to play in people's greed for love and approval for the people that were buying it for. So if I was selling kids products, I used to not just talk about them saving money. I used to play in a parent's greed for getting love for the kids. Everybody wants a cuddle for the kids. Everybody wants to be the favourite parent. Anybody who says they don't's lying. It's a competition. My wife says, it's no competition. I'm like, that's a competition. If they get hugging me more than you, then I'm winning, right? It's my house anyway, right?
Not competitive at all, are you?
Not at all. Not at all. But a lot of people in sales think greed is just money. Greed isn't. Greed is time. Like, how do I get more time back? You know what I mean? Greed is how do I get a better service for less hassle. Greed is greed for love and greed for approval. You know, how do you think do you get this objection all the time about, we call it the spouse objection, which is, I can't make a decision without talking to my partner. And a good overturn for that is playing on the greed for approval. Well, how do you think your partner would feel if you told them that you missed out on a deal, right? You missed out on a deal because you wanted their approval, versus them coming home from work and you've been able to tell them, number one, you got a better service for whatever you're selling. Like, you've actually made an improvement to the house or made an improvement to your life. But number two, because you saved some money, you can actually take them on a date because you made the decision that day to make money. How do you think they would feel about that? Do you think they'd hug you or get upset? And you see them, it's called painting a picture. They go, actually, I think she'd actually be excited about it. Great, so you're ready to go ahead. I'm playing on your greed for approval. I'm playing on your greed for love. It's not just greed for money. I used to sell guys makeup all the time.
Based off of your girlfriend or wife will like you.
I just say, imagine their face when you get in, you bought them makeup on a Tuesday. How good will she feel then? How will she treat you that night? You see guys do this. Yeah. And I'm like, great. How many girlfriends you got? I used to always sell on Monday for guilty consciences. A Friday was to get it. I used to always say, guys, you want to get it tonight? And I'm like, yeah, buy this gear, I bet she lets you out. Actually, she will. Monday, I'm like, weekend to balance back out. Let me show you what's. So again, when I was selling cosmetics to guys, and I sold more to guys in the world, I was playing on their greed for attention for their wife. What's the top of money? A guy doesn't care how much money he was saving to make up for his wife or his girlfriend. He couldn't care less. When I was selling toys, it wasn't about the saving money. It was the kid's face and the love that he got back for the kid for buying him a toy on a Tuesday. The Christmas, birthdays, all that kind of stuff, it's quite obvious why they're going to buy it. But that's why I'm saying on a Tuesday, because I had to give people reasons to buy things all the time. It wasn't something that, when I sold products that people didn't necessarily need or want, then I had to give them reasons to buy it. And one of the big things was playing on the trigger of greed, right? Which is, and you see the face change. How would your kid feel? Or would your kid get a big hug when you got this and you see them smile, thinking about the big hug, and that's their greed for love and their greed for attention and playing it. So greed's a trigger. And then there's another trigger called, the Americans call it the Jones effect. We call it sheep factor. And the Jones effect is people's natural desire to be tribal. Even people that say they don't follow trends or following the trend, they don't follow the trend. Like, everybody follows some sort of trend, right? Yeah. If you look at fashion, and they now call them influencers. But long before Instagram, long before Facebook, long before TikTok, and long before all that stuff, people always used it. They made a movie with David Duchovny and Demi Moore.
That's a good movie, actually.
It's called Keeping Up with the Joneses.
I've seen it.
It's a brilliant movie, and it just shows you how they plant families who are salespeople, pretend to be families in rich neighbourhoods to promote products and services. Again, now we call them influencers, right? Yeah. An influencer given a product to influence other people's buying habits. So when you're doing that in selling, you've got to be able to give reasons and references. Reasons and references is references to people who are like them. Same car, same dog, same type of business, same professional. If I'm talking to a doctor, I talk about the last doctor that signed up, or the last lawyer, or someone that's on that level. If I'm talking to a construction worker, I'll talk about the mechanics and the construction workers and so on. And so if I'm talking to a girl, I'll talk about other girls and all that. Again, influencers, tribal, right? The people that follow the same influencers are all part of the same community. I'd probably call it community as well these days, right?
Similar demographics.
Yeah, but just we like to feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves, right? And the whole keeping up with the Joneses is next door neighbour get a new car, so we need to get a new car, and they get a new roof, so we need to get a new roof. And that's just how people are also competitive. People are also jealous and envious. So there's loads of wee triggers there, but you've got to be really good. And again, watch the shopping channels. they're selling a kitchen. I used to watch the shopping channels when I was new to sales because it taught me how to sell, because you had people selling products through a camera who were face to face, but never actually, it was just one-sided. Do you know what I mean? But they were handling, long before online sales, they were handling people's objections and using this reasons and references online. Would be little Mary from, we'll say Postal, since we're in Glasgow, right? Just bought these knife sets because Mary says that cutting her tomatoes sometimes is really horrible and she really needed a sharp knife. Let's get Mary on the phone. Mary, why did you buy them? These are the best knives in the whole entire world. And then we Susie for Pollock's like, you know what? That sounds really good, because it's social proof. Another example of that with social proof is, what's the first thing we all do now? We look at reviews. What are we looking for? We're looking for people like us that have been there before, and we're looking to see if they have a good opinion. If people like us have a good, again, when you scroll down and you know, you're posh Agnes for Bearsden and we scruffy Johnny for Springburn, you don't care what wee Johnny thinks. You care what Jane for Bearsden says. So you're going to look for people who are similar to you and like you. And if you're a family person looking at a hotel, you don't care about what the youngins say. You care about what the person who went with 3 kids says. So we were using that in sales long before now, but now online, it's quite evident. Again, if you look at online sales and every website that's built, all these things are there. These are all wee triggers that are just human. You trigger human emotions and you trigger actions. We'll talk about indifference. And actually, indifference, you can say indifference does work. Seeming like you don't care whether someone makes a decision or not when they feel like you should care sometimes triggers them to do what you want to do. And you can use it actually when you get out. Sometimes I'd use that with my mates, or I'd use that with my kids. Like, I really don't care whether they do something or not. Like, I don't care, it's your life.
Yeah,
sometimes
not too
it works.
salesy.
Yeah, you're not trying, because sometimes people don't like being sold. Everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold to. And even when you're trying to sell the idea to the kids that they have to do something right, or your partner they have to do something, they're saying no because they feel like you're the one controlling the situation. It's not because they don't want to do it. It's because they don't want to do it in your terms. So being indifferent means acting the opposite of what they expect, and it's acting like you don't care when you do it.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, whatever.
Being cool as a cucumber.
So the only way to describe that to be implemented in sales, and something I teach the sales reps, is you've got to talk to every prospect or every customer. We've got American with prospect, right? Or every potential customer, regardless of what kind of sales you're in. Like you've already done a massive amount of sales that day, talk to them like you don't need their business. If you get into high-end car sales places like Ferrari, Porsche, even get somewhere like Audi and BMW, the higher up you go, the less they seem like they care about your business. You get into somewhere that's a lower-end car sales place, they'll really try to sell to you, but other brands are like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? They don't get upset or try and sell to you. They'll present the product, but they're very much like, you know, we'll sell it regardless. So indifference is also having belief in what you're selling, or at least being able to come across like you believe in what you're selling.
Yeah.
Not everybody can get the best clients, right?
No. And I think that's obviously all things that will help you within sales, but that's you once you kind of get into your sales pitch. But to get there, you need to kind of establish trust quickly with a customer or potential customer before you can even kind of get into your pitch with them. So what tips would you have to quickly establish that trust?
Okay, so you get 2 chances to make an impression. The first chance is how you look, and the second chance is what comes out your mouth. So people will judge you based on appearance quite quickly. So getting people, you got to look the part. How do I explain looking the part? How you look has got to make sense to what you're. So you got to be presentable first and foremost, right? Let's be honest. Like, you don't have to be beautiful to do sales, but you have to make an effort. You want people to look at you, because if I look at you straight away, right? Let's just talk non-verbal. Let's just talk before you open your mouth. People will look, scan you, and make a decision because they're not stupid. They can see, right? If I look at you and you've got like a scruffy shirt on, a scruffy pair of shoes, and don't take any pride, but then tell me you get the best product in the market that works the best. It's not a conscious contradiction a lot of the time. It might be subconscious. Something doesn't make sense. If I come to, I always get told to dress for the position I wanted, not the position I was in. I always get told that people should be asking me why I was doing sales because I look too smart to be doing sales. I look too sharp. Because when a sharp person approaches you, you're like, it creates a wee bit of curiosity. Why is this really sharp person talking to me? And sales is all about building value. So if you look like you take a lot of pride and you're somebody who should be selling something of value, actually later on in the sale adds value to what you're selling. So people will judge you based on how you look. So the first thing I would say is look at your image. I always done sales, always made sure my My hair was done, my beard. Before we came here the day, I got a haircut. I didn't want to trim my beard. I had to trim my beard this morning. I had to use a blunt razor to shave myself this morning. Actually, to use one of my wife's razors in the house because my razors were in the gym. I had to shave it because the idea of coming on the camera and delivering information with it looking presentable, I can't, right? I'm selling the idea that you should watch this podcast and you should listen to what I'm saying. But if I don't look at, if I'm scruffy, there's just something in you that would just not make you respect me as much as that.
And there's been, from conversations I've heard, when you've had that you've had with sales agents, there has very often been of your image matching the audience that you are going to be interacting with.
Of course.
So there'll be times where if you're going to a rougher area, maybe not have your tie and your 3-piece suit on and your tie done up, and take a clipboard with you and relax a bit more and take the tie off. And
I used to take a wee leather briefcase and put my iPad in it in the nicer areas.
Yeah. A little briefcase.
It's like a case, a wee leather case, just to make me look more professional.
Exactly.
I wouldn't take that if I was going and knocking on a rough neighbourhood store. Do you know what I mean? So you're right.
And do you think the image can... So if you don't match, do you think that can have a negative effect?
100% yes. It does have a negative. If you let's just say you're going to a rich area, but you look scruffy, you're going to get the door slammed in your face relatively quickly. This is the downside to face, because on the telephone nobody knows. You can sit in a pair of boxer shorts on the phone and do telesales, right?
Yeah, but I guess on the phones, maybe accents would put you off, or how you pronounce your words, or the slang, or... But
when it's face-to-face, image is everything. I was doing business to business. I'd look like I ran a very profitable business. I'd have all the best of gear on. I'd have shiny shoes on. I think it makes it a dude. I'll give you an example, right? We were door knocking years ago, and we were in Parkhead, and there was a boy called Colin, and he comes to me and he's like, no one's talking to me. No one's interested. I'm getting loads of doors slammed in my face. And I looked at him and I says, that's because you look like a cop or a bailiff. He had a tie on, he had a 3-piece suit on. He had a black 3-piece suit on with a white shirt and a black tie. And I just went out to help that day. I hadn't been out the whole day, hadn't known this. And it's so funny because I says to him, I bet you people are looking at the windows, but no one's coming out the door. And he's like, yep. And I'm like, that's because you look like an authority. You look like if somebody in trouble for something, right? You just look like that kind of thing. And in this neighbourhood's going to talk to you. I says, and he had tattoos in both his arms. I says, okay, take your tie off, put your jacket away, roll your sleeves up and show your tats, and then go. Everybody started talking to him quite quickly. So it's just the impression you give. Even winter time when I'm dealing with door knockers, I tell them to put bright clothes on. I'm like, if you think about the idea of somebody coming to burgle your house, right? Or any idea of anybody try to sneak to do stuff. Like if you see, this is quite funny, but ninjas on TV or SAS or, Navy SEALs, what do they dress in at night? They dress in dark clothes so that no one can see them, right? It's camouflage. So even something like in the winter time, I'm like, wear a white shirt and a bright tie and wear greys and blacks, greys and blues and don't, again, because, that gives off a, it's a wee bit dark, can't see you properly, makes me a wee bit, cautious, where you're nice and bright makes me. So I think even stuff like colours influence. I used to wear bright ties doing sales. I used to wear bright ties. Number one, it came across positive, but number two, I always started a conversation with guys. Maybe slag my tie a wee bit. So sometimes I'd purposely put on like a certain colour of tie. Sometimes I'd do that. Especially I was going to go do a lot of pubs because it was funny, because it was a good way in a conversation because people would slag my tie off. So sometimes I'd wear funny ties because it was a conversation starter. People were like, is that Santa's in your tie? I'm like, yeah. But it got them talking to me. And so people are going to look, judge, and they're going to, you think about it as a kid, for your 3 months in the womb, you hear mum and dad and everybody around you judging everybody based on how they look. So I think how you look in face-to-face sales, I really think deeply about how I look all the time. You slag me for it, but I think people are going to judge me the second to look at me. I even think, I know they are. And their wee brains will categorise you and put you in a box quite quickly. So, that's my first impression, and then my second impression is what comes out my mouth. I think we're just talking sales, you got to be firm, you got to be friendly with people. Firm just means I can look somebody in the eye and have a strong tone of voice, right, and come across like an expert. You got to come across a little bit when you're saying hello to people. You meet somebody, you just ooze with confidence. They've just got this unhinging self-belief where they're just like, how you doing, you good? And you just know their tone, they're just... I've loads of... You got to learn to come across like that with people. You've got to smile at people because people like positive. If you don't smile, you'll attract people that don't smile. I just think the people that I've seen had way more success in face-to-face sales are people who can look people in the eye and smile. Because you think about even walking down the street, how it makes you feel if somebody new, you get eye contact with someone that's a stranger and you just smile.
You did that today in the car park. You saw a baby smiling and that made your day.
That's right. The baby that came out the lift, right? And I smiled and started talking to the baby and the parents because the baby was like smiling. Because when I see someone smiling at me, it makes me smile. And I think when you smile, you get endorphins and you feel good. So if I'm going to go approach somebody to sell something, people don't make, I'm going to say impulsive decisions. It's not impulsive as in they don't think about it. Impulsive means you didn't wake up thinking. It's not something you need. You just bought it just because you felt like it. That's what I would deem as an impulsive decision. Do you know what I mean? Like I go into the shop, I see a pair of shoes, I don't need shoes, but I buy the shoes because I really like it. I would deem that as an impulsive decision. People never make impulsive decisions negative. In fact, we're terrible shoppers negative. We'll buy what we need negatively, but we'll never buy something we don't need when we're in the wrong frame of mind. So if I want the customer to be in a more positive frame of mind, I have to be positive and I have to smile and look somebody in the eye. And I mean, it's a difference between a smile. Do you know when your mum tells you to get a picture taken and you don't want your picture taken and you're like, there's a difference between that and actually being able to master the art of portraying a genuine smile. And again, when I'm teaching salespeople this, I'm like, customers don't know what's going on in your head and what's not. So if you have to think of something that makes you naturally smile, think about it. But try and put yourself in that, try and frame yourself like you're having the best day ever. And if you're having the best day ever and you really do love the product and you're really selling loads, how would you be? And they're like, well, I'd be happy, smiley.
Yeah.
And so it's got to come across as a genuine smile. But that, when you learn how to smile at people and put on what would be deemed as your best smile and a genuine smile to everybody you approach, you'll find that you're way more approachable and you'll find that people are way more prone to wanting to talk to you, but no one could write down why. They go, he just seemed like a nice person. She just seemed like a nice girl. Just because, so for me, again, we're going to go body language, but I think a smile, being able to genuinely smile, look somebody in the eye and smile is an absolute superpower when you're trying to get people to talk to you.
Yeah.
Do it at parties. Look at someone, smile at them across the room, look them in the eye, give them a genuine smile, and watch people walk across the room to talk to you. Non-verbal again.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think those things, like you said, when you are kind of approaching a customer, you do have a split second to make that impression, because within a couple seconds, as a consumer, as a customer myself, I will know within 5 seconds if I want to even talk to that person.
Yep.
So you don't have a big window to make that impression.
Yep. Waiters, waitresses, I only tip people that are nice. I only remember the girl we had last week, went to that Italian with the lovely girl who was turned out to be German, because she was lovely. She came, she smiled, went up talking to her for ages. Like, I just, again, somebody smiles, they're a nice person, and if they're nice, you try and make time to talk to them, to be nice back. And again, when you're in sales, the art of selling is, the first thing is your ability to get attention. And if I'm going face to face with people, like, nobody wants to talk to nasty, horrible, boring, not happy people, right?
Yeah.
God, sometimes my own children don't smile at me in the morning, and I do this. My house was stressed this morning.
Yeah.
One's got our first prelim today.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wife seems stressed with baby. Baby's arguing about what dress she's wearing to nursery for Halloween, and my 12-year-old was just getting stressed out because they're just like, and I just, I didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah. See you later.
I made my breakfast and I come home for the gym. I was going to say regretted coming home. I didn't, but I just sat and left everyone alone because they're not in a good mood. I don't want to talk to anybody.
I know you've said those there's some really easy ways to make a really good impression and to quickly build that trust with a potential customer. But what are some mistakes people make early on in a conversation or early on in a sales pitch that break that rapport and kind of halt it?
Try to say stupid jokes and stupid icebreakers, and I think icebreakers are fine if it's genuine and it has something funny. You just never know the person's sense of humour, so you see a lot of sales reps try to make jokes and try to be funny, and I've done that. I tried it. It died in its face more times than not. Now and again it would work right, but Sometimes it's not. I mean, you got to pick your audience right. But when you go to a door, or you first call someone, or you walk into a business, or whatever way somebody jumps in a Zoom, whatever way you're going to do sales with a customer, and you start it with a joke, trying to be funny, and they don't have your sense of humor, you're done. You're done. So you're driving in the dark. So I see a lot of people make mistakes with that. I see a lot of people make mistakes with things I talk about their image, the words they use, their enthusiasm level. You know, if I speak to a little old granny, I'm not as enthusiastic as when I talk to a 22-year-old Gen Zer, do you know what I mean? Who's a wee bit motivated and having a great time. So I mean, I see people, sometimes people make mistakes due to inexperience, and some people make mistakes just because they don't listen. But I see people make mistakes like that and say a lot of silly things. A lot of people, to be great at sales, for me to be really great at sales, you have to try and master the art of getting everybody's attention. The more people's attention you can get, the more chance you get of selling your product, which means the more product you'll sell at the end of the day or service, right? But a lot of people just go and they just attract one type of person because they do use jokes and they use banter, and they're them, but they're to them. They try and make it personal too much. So, you know, I just think keep things nice and simple till you get to know someone, then adapt and change a little bit. But I think, you know, who doesn't love a young professional, fun young guy or girl? So I think you've got to be quite bland in the beginning and quite young, professional and fun for, you know, boy or girl, whatever. I see a lot of people make mistakes where they go and try and have banter and prejudge. You know, somebody might think because in a rough neighbourhood, if they go to the door and make jokes, rough jokes, it's, you know what I mean? But maybe somebody, because they stay in a house, an area that doesn't seem like there's a high amount of income, doesn't mean they speak a certain way, and doesn't mean they act a certain way, doesn't mean they are a certain way. So there's a lot of prejudging goes on. Same idea if I go to somewhere that's a little bit upper class. Like if I go and la-di-da everybody, you know, many times I tried that as a sales rep, and I went, oh, hello, how you doing? And somebody's like, I'm all right, mate, you? I'm like, 10-bedroom house with a Ferrari outside. This makes no, do you know what I mean?
What happens when people come to your house?
Sorry?
So what happens when they come to your house?
Yeah, they come in. Yeah, true. I love when people knock my door and look at the cars or whatever and go, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I go, you do? And they go, I'm like, I'm in sales. You see their wee faces light up. Yeah, I quite like that when they come to my door. I never openly give that information away to people and say that, but they always tend to ask. Yeah, they get a shop when they come to the door. But I teach my sales agents that too. I says, if you came to my street, predominantly a lot of people in my street would speak a wee bit more polite than me and seem a wee bit more laddie-da, and then you come to my door and you get the Springburn boy, do you know what I mean? I mean, my neighbourhood's full of people like that.
Yeah.
So they're just, you know what I mean? But you come from a certain place but end up in another one. So you never know who you're going to talk to. The mistake people make is they prejudge and act a certain way without getting information first and foremost. So I see people do that, and stupid jokes and icebreakers. Like, I'm all for it. I'm all for icebreakers, but use an icebreaker kind of into the conversation once you've tested. Make sure you get the right audience. Have you ever seen there's a guy called Sean Gillies. Do you watch Sean Gillies? Comedian online. I don't know if he'd be your cup of tea, but he's a comedian. We're on Joe a lot, we're on Joe Rogan.
Right.
Great guy. I think he's hysterical. But he was on Saturday Night Live a couple of weeks ago. And you seen him tell some jokes and you realised it wasn't his crowd. And even he made a comment during, he's like, whoa, you guys aren't my crowd, are you? Saturday Night Live was not. He's very Marmite comedian.
Right.
He's very like
His
Theo
short
Vaughn.
smart, yeah.
It's Marmite. You're a love or hate. There's no, like a Chris Rock's in the middle, like a Kevin Hart's in the middle. You know, they're just like, you know, they can appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
Kevin Bridget, they appeal to everybody. He's like love or hate. And so sometimes when people use icebreakers without testing their crowd, that's what it's like. It's like a comedian that tells a joke and gets no laughs. And as soon as you've done that, you've lost the crowd if you're a comedian. But if you're a sales rep and you screw up the introduction, you just walk away. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. It's like going on a first date and saying something stupid in the first minute. You're done. Just be careful. Like, get a feel for them first before you start being too much yourself, you know?
Before you make a silly comment.
So yeah, icebreaker's been number one downfall. A lot of guys are like, yeah, I've got a great icebreaker. And I'm like, yeah, great for some people. But how many people are you losing because of that line?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard some proper cringy ones as well.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's like a chat line. An icebreaker, the way to describe it's like when people approach people in a bar, olden days, and use a cheesy line. Again, it could work, but there's a lot of average to that. I'll work on a certain girl or guy. But what about how many you're losing just purely based on that one line? Who could have dated you?
I don't think a chat-up line would ever work.
Ah.
Just the concept. But it's the same with like icebreakers. like you feel awkward, don't you? And you're like, oh, it's awkward.
Listen, I done it as a sales rep, and I used icebreakers, and sometimes I was using them because it was for my amusement. I had to have some fun.
Do you have ones that you remember?
It took away the awkwardness. Yeah, whenever I used to walk in anywhere, so I used to do business sales, and sometimes you'd walk into a business and like 20 people would turn round. So you get 40 eyes. Everybody just does this, right? It's like, the old bars in the Western. Somebody walks in, everybody stops.
Yeah.
Sometimes you walk into an office, you don't know what's behind the door. You just walk in, and sometimes 20 people do this, and they just stare at you. So when I says icebreakers, it wasn't to get them to like me, it was to take away awkwardness.
Yeah.
So I'd say silly things like, it was a bunch of guys that go, it wasn't me, I was in a house on Saturday night. So that was my one, was a bunch of guys. It wasn't me, lads, I was in a house on Saturday night all night, I've got an alibi.
Yeah.
And they kind of laugh and go, oh, sorry, we were staring. But it was it was a bunch of women. I'd always say the same thing. I'd just say stripogram for Mary. And you'd very quickly know your crowd, because, some of your crowd were like, hey, stripogram for Mary. And I'd have some fun, and they knew I was joking. And some people would be like, still staring. I'd be like, all right. Okay, cool. So who's in charge? And it would stay awkward. I had a woman once in a hairdresser's shut the door and lock it and pull the shutters down and tell me I wasn't leaving her hairdressers until I took my clothes off.
Well, if you've
I
said
called
that,
her bluff, though.
Yeah.
I started taking my top off. She's the one that quickly opened the shutter door. I mean, there's nothing bad. That's what I mean. I've been all right to take my top off. I was 23. I was like, no problem.
Yeah.
She's like, no.
Finally, someone has asked me.
It's like, I used to do it all the time in hairdressers if I walk in it, because it's awkward. So for me, icebreakers were to break the tension, not to get attention. So a lot of sales reps use icebreakers to get attention and get people who like them. For me, it was to break the ice.
Yeah.
It's called an icebreaker. You break the ice.
It's like you were saying earlier, you don't know what their vibe is. You don't know their personality. You don't know how they respond to things. So how is a way then that a salesperson can try read a customer to get a read of what they're thinking, or kind of where to take the conversation, or what their emotions are to whatever they're saying?
Do wee testers. If you want to know if someone's got a bit of banter, throw in a slight bit of banter, see what the reaction is. If you get a wee giggle, do you know what I mean?
It's like a tepid thing.
Yeah, a wee giggle, do you know what I mean? Something silly when you're talking to someone who's about decision making, and they say, yeah, I'm not a decision maker, and they're like, oh, you got the good jobs, yeah. And then they go, if there's no laugh at that, they'll not get my sense of humour. They'll not get a sense of humour. I think a lot. Every single person that gets into sales has to learn to shut up. Yeah. And that might seem a wee bit contradictory, maybe be the word. And the reason why you shut up is when you're talking, you can't analyse. So when I'm talking to you, it's hard for me to, because I'm too busy thinking about the words that come out of my mouth, so it's hard for me. So if I'm thinking about what I'm talking, I've no room to process what you're doing. So expert salespeople are really good at saying one thing or asking the right questions, and then really being like they're collecting data. Like, I want to watch you, like right now you're blinking a lot when you're answering, right? Like, I want to notice they're called, it's like watch poker, it's micro expressions. You stop blinking there because I pointed out that you were blinking, right? And then when you're thinking, you do your eyes close over a wee bit more. So when you see people go to listen more. So when I tell someone what I'm doing and they do this, that means they're interested in listening more. You watch people's mouth all the time and smiling or not. You watch people do these wee micro rejections. Like, have you ever spoke to somebody when you're telling them something, you see them doing this, you can see people kind of nodding along. You know they're interested, right? When they're not. When I'm doing public speaking events, I can always tell who's listening because they're going,
Who's engaged.
And you see those wee things, because we've these reactions that our body gives off, right? Unless you're like an expert at controlling it, with wee micro expressions. Like, people, I was having this conversation with one of my friends yesterday whose girlfriend rolled his eyes at him, and I was laughing because my wife's going to kill me for saying this on camera, but sometimes she'll do these wee micro expressions, can you do this for me? And she'll go, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what? I'm like, you sighed. And sometimes I'll do it too, or a slight roll of the eye. She'll go, yeah. And I'm, whoa. The roll of the eye tells me how you really feel. Doesn't matter what words are coming out your mouth. The roll of the eye tells you. And I learned this because in business-to-business sales, when you get into businesses, a lot of time, because there always has to be at least one person in the business, right? A lot of time wasters because they were bored. So I had to learn how to really be able to read whether someone was talking to me because they had nothing else to do, were wasting my time, or they were actually interested. I remember actually when I became really good at this, I walked into a retail store, and I tell you what it was in Cumbernauld Shopping Centre, and it was a clothes shop, and it was on the first floor. And if you're watching this, you'll remember me, because I walked into the guy's store, and he'd done a wee flick of his eyes up the way. He says, "Oh, what are you selling?" So he says the right things. An untrained salesperson would go, "Oh, let me show you." But he rolled his eyes at me, which means he's not interested, he's just bored. And I says, "Oh, sorry, wrong shop, mate." No, what are you selling? And I actually says to the guy, "You rolled your eyes at me. You're evidently not interested, mate. I ain't wasting my time talking to you." And he begged me to go back and show him what to do, and a pure principle I didn't that day. Didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't roll your eyes at me. One, it's rude. Two, you're evidently just going to waste my time, because I had to learn that. Because a lot of times I get caught up in these 45 1-hour conversations thinking I was getting something at the end of it, and then I wouldn't get something at the end of it. I don't mind rejection, but I mind you wasting 45 minutes to an hour of my time. Like, your time's precious, right? When you're getting paid in commission, time is money. So you got to learn how to read people. Like, everybody thinks about closing as closing a sale. I think there's a difference between closing a conversation and closing a sale. I will close the conversation down the second I think the conversation's not going anywhere. I.e., if I'm a salesperson who's talking to a prospect and talking to a potential customer, and I don't think there's a good enough chance you've been a potential customer, I won't waste another second talking to you. But 99.9% of the time, that's nothing that you say. It's things that you do. Silly things like I used to test. So if I was on the fence with somebody and I'm like, I can't read them, I'd do something like give you like a pamphlet with information on it. I give you a product to look at. These days I give you an iPad to look at, and I'd hand it to you. So the first test is, do you take it from my hand? You don't take that from my hand. You're not interested at all in what if I say, have a look at this, or let me show you this and hand you something, and you can't even take it out of my hand, we're done. If you do take it out of my hand and then we'll do it for the camera. So if you take it out of my hand, okay, so you took it out of my hand, so you're a little bit interested, but then you do this and look back at me, you're not interested. If you do take it and then start to read, what do I know?
Yeah, there's
interest there. So there's all these wee things you can do. Facial expressions, and facial expressions isn't big. Or no, it's the eyes sometimes going side to side with people, or it's a wee roll of the eyes with somebody, or somebody doing this wee face. Do you know what I mean? Or even someone like walking back from you. You see that as well in residential sales and in business to business. You go to hand someone something, they kind of step back a wee bit. It's not.
Yeah.
Or someone is like, if you're doing door-to-door sales and someone's got the door open and they start to close the door over a little bit. That's what I do as a sales rep. They come to my door from interested. I start to close the door. I'll actually, again, I know how to use body language to tell somebody, send a message. And sometimes people can't read social cues. And I tell them, can you not? Take the hint, mate.
Your dog can do a shut door now.
Do you know what I mean? Take that. Do you see what I mean? I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Yep. And I go to shut the door and I'm like, cool. It's like when I put my window up when somebody's talking to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, read the social cue. And they're like, talking in the window. I'm like, shut up. No problem. I did it sometimes. People talk to me in my car and I want to go home at night. Or I go to talk to me in my car. Like, I have people I'm coaching sometimes follow me to the car. And I'll get into the car seat and I'll still be talking. And as I'm talking, I start to pull over the door so they get a hint. I do that to people because it gives I'm telling them something without telling. And sometimes they don't read and I have to go, I'm going to drive, mate, right? Yeah. But for the most part, people get it. But if you want to be good at sales, you have to get very good at observing the situation and reading the situation and looking for cues for, we call it buying and non-buying signs. But also shutting up and using your ears. Like, listen to what people are saying. You got 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, right? Everybody thinks sales is this. No, sales isn't. Sales is the person who can sit. When we do sales calls, so obviously we do sales calls. I was doing cold calling last night on a it's called a loom, right? And I was making up these pitches we send people through email, right? Which was a blast. I felt like I was a sales rep. I guess should have seen it. I was screwing up. For the first 20 minutes, I was frustrated.
You should have filmed that because you were hilarious.
I was angry.
You get it wrong.
So I'm like mid-pitch, my wife came in the house and made noise. I'm like, nothing was going right. The internet was slow. It was mad. And I'm like, it's just like when I started sales, getting frustrated. By the ninth person, I was like, boom. But anyway, God, I totally forget where I was going with that there.
When you were sending out your looms yesterday.
Listening. Sorry. So that was one part, was a cold calling. But when we're doing a closing, when we're doing, that's to get the press, that's to get attention, right? Then when we get attention, we get them on a call. When I'm on a call, I'm always the quietest person on the call. And Harris, who I did this with, I'll tell you, I'll let him talk. And I'm watching body language, eyes. I'm listening to what they actually are saying. I'm not listening to the words. I'm listening to what they're trying to say without saying it sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like someone saying, like, I'm not really that interested. And they'll go, oh, they're not interested. No. This says they're not really that interested, which means they're interested, but just not interested enough.
Yeah.
Or someone will make a wee comment, and I'll say to Harris after it, did you notice when they says that wee comment? And he's like, I didn't even hear that. And it shows you the level of difference between him and I's ability to listen. But he's doing all the talking. Because he's talking, he can't listen properly. But if you listen to customers properly, it'll give you all the cues you need. People will tell you how to sell to them if you just tell them what you got, ask them the right questions, and shut up and listen. Like it's the difference, the way we talk about it, it's the difference between someone who runs in with a machine gun, an AK-47, and just sprays bullets and hopes it hits something, and the sniper sitting on the roof picking their targets. When you learn to listen, and you listen for verbal cues and listen to what people are actually saying to you and what people are actually trying to communicate, and you learn to watch again, like a sniper. They watch everything. They know the wind, they know the temperature, they know the distance, they know the hills, like they know all these intricate details, so that when they take the shot, they only need to take one shot and they get the kill. So for an excellent salesperson, when they get an opportunity to get the kill / sale, they get it because they've watched and they've listened and they've analysed the situation and they know what their best shot is. Because you can't sell to, this is another thing we could do the podcast, you can't sell everybody the same way. Not everybody's looking to buy the same thing, even if it's the same product. Some people are price, some people are service. We had somebody come on a call with us not that long ago who already believed, quite a big company, it's quite a big deal. We charged them £6,000 for a landing page, right? But to get them as a client, sure, they're an unbelievable company. We love their product. We really, really believe in it. And so anyway, this guy, we managed to get in a call. We went by his product one day and sent him a message saying, we can really help your business. And we get him on a call and he's doing this call. And again, Harris missed this. Harris missed it because Harris was too busy. I hope you don't mind this, mate, but he was talking. He was talking about all the stuff we could do.
Pitch mode.
And he's like, we're going to go through the 13 steps. And the guy's like, for the sake of time, Harris, like, I don't. And Harris missed the cure for the sake of time, which means I've not got time. I don't like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was having a conversation. But what he says during it, he says, I just come on to check, make sure you guys weren't dickheads. Didn't need to see proof of work. Guy had already done his due diligence and went through our work. The guy had already looked at our company. The guy had already looked at our reputation. The guy knew the product and the service was good. The guy was going to be cool with the price because he's dealt with companies like us before. What was he looking for? He was just looking to make sure we weren't the two horrible people.
Yeah.
He was wanting to find good people to deal with. He wasn't caring about the product and service you can get everywhere, but try to find the right people to get it from. And it's funny because we won business with them, right? And all I wanted to know was, were we good people? So sometimes people, it's not the product or the price that you're doing. People just, if they like you, not like you as in they've got a personal attachment, but if people trust you and you're a good person, they'll buy because of it. I used to have all guys say to me all the time, sorry, I'm going on a rant. I used to have people say to me all the time, I don't need it, but I'll buy it from you. And I always says to them, I says, no problem, I take charity too. I don't care why you buy, I just care that you buy. I don't care. I find this, as people say all the time, I find a use for it. What were they telling me? I'm buying it because I like you. I'm not buying it because I need your product. You're just nice. You seem like a nice person.
It's like what you're saying earlier, like your vibes matched.
People used to say to me all the time, do you get commission off this? And I go, yeah. And they go, okay, I'll take it. I meant they didn't need the product of that. I didn't.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me telling myself, right, what I'm trying to portray here is, if you listen, you'll pick up quite quickly why the person's even talking to you in the first place, and you can use that. If it's because I pick up quickly that they already want the product and they're just making sure they can trust me, I'm just having a chat with the person and letting them ask questions as well. So if I know the person's just looking to find somewhere they can trust them, I can pick up that quite quickly and openly say to the person what questions or concerns they have quite quickly. I bring them up in my terms, not their terms.
Yeah.
But everybody's so busy. Sales reps are so busy to talk about how wonderful the product is. Most people don't care. Are you a nice person? Can I trust you? Do you know more than me? Can I use your product? And how much is it going to cost?
So how about in the case where you know, if you're speaking to a customer and 8 times out of 10, a customer is going to be quite neutral.
Yep.
They're going to be on the fence.
That's exactly right. That math's right, Miranda. Well done.
8 out of 10 people are going to be neutral.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be that overly into it, but they're also not going to be like opposed to it.
Yep.
So with that being the bulk of people you're trying to sell to,
yep.
How do you avoid going into the like danger zone of being too pushy or trying to push a sale on them too much, overselling to that customer?
Because I ethically sell. Ethical sales means I'm not going to try and be firm and a bit pushy with someone who I don't think is going to benefit for the transaction. So you have to be, we're not going to call it pushy, we're going to call it firm. And the only way to relate to that is like mum and dad getting you to eat your veg or brush your teeth or clean your room or go for a shower when you're a kid, you know, and so you're no smelly. They're being firm with you and they're giving you a wee nudge, I would call, rather than a push. They're giving you a little nudge because it's good for you. So first of all, pushy salespeople, I've never got in trouble for being pushy, and I've never had a complaint or I've never had a consumer get upset for me being pushy. I did have a lot of people look at me and go, God loves a trier. And my response was always, I'm his best friend. A lot of people say that to me, which means I was pushing the boat.
Yeah.
But only when I recognised that they were a customer that would benefit from it would I do it. Again, go back to people are bad decision makers, right? If you have a product or service that's going to make their life a little bit better or save them some finances and make them a wee bit financially better off, hopefully both, right, where you improve their life or add some value to their life or by giving them back some time or making their home safer or giving them electricity if you're selling solar, loads of different ways, right? If you can make a life better and save them some money, and if I know that it's going to help you a lot, the more I know it can help and the more I know it's beneficial, then the more I'm going to give you a wee nudge. And I think we all need a wee nudge. Think about it, and it's not being pushy. A lot of people deem not accepting the first no as being pushy. I always say the same thing to people because when you hire people with a moral compass, you always have a problem. Is this going to cross the moral line? Am I being pushy? I always get this with people. Like, I don't want to be too pushy. I don't want to be too pushy either, right? So I can teach you another way of doing sales without having to be a good closer. But anyway, go back to the pushy thing. I always say to people, think about all the things you got in your life from your parents. Everything. And did you get a lot? And they're like, yep. I'm like, did you get the trainers you want? Yep, got it. Did you get the holiday? Yep. Did you get the money? Yep, got it. All the stuff you go through. How many of that stuff would you not have got if you accepted the first answer? You see people do this? Because what was mum and dad's first answer when you asked for money all the time? It's hard. Never really got a straight yes. I don't remember getting a yes first time. Anytime. I always had to push a little bit, but you always knew when to stop. Mum had that tone. Dad had that tone. Do you know what I mean? Dad goes, no, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
You knew to push. But Dad goes, no, definitely not. You just knew the facial expression. Again, you learned how to read facial expression and tonality as a child. We're all good salespeople as children. Kids are the best salespeople they want because they're the best people. They're persistent. They overturn objections. They smile. They pick when you're in the right mood. Like, we all are naturally good at sales, but we get it knocked out of us as we get older because we get told not to be cheeky, not to ask twice. Do you know what I mean? And then you give up a lot because you just realise that your parents are quite negative and you get in trouble every time you ask for it. Right, but anyway, I learned it when my dad drunk beer and was in front of his mates. He was quite egotistical. So my dad used to make good money. He worked offshore, but he was so tight. And if I asked my dad for £5, and I'm talking about a guy who made thousands a week here. So I ask it, and I'm talking about the 90s here. That's for £5. £2. Nup. First up, nup. And I learned no matter what I'd done in the house. And as a child, I worked at it wasn't that my dad had had a drink. It's when he was with his mates, he wanted to be Johnny Big Guns. Mr. I'll buy everybody, I've got loads of cash. And I clicked as a kid that if I wanted anything from my dad, I waited till my dad was in the pub in front of his mates, and then I'd point blank ask him in front of his mates. Never once did I get rejected.
Did he ever pick one up on it? Did he ever say anything?
No, I always waited till he was about 3 or 4 pints in.
Yeah.
And my mum would encourage it. I'm like, I really need a pair of trainers. My mum's like, he's got to the pub at 12:30, son. I'm like, well, okay. But 1:15, my mum would go, yeah, probably about 1:15, son. My mum would tell me, she went, don't ask him just now.
Brilliant.
My mum used to warn me, she went, don't ask him. sometimes my wife's going to hate this. I tell my kids the same things. Sometimes my kids will come to me and say, they're going to ask them, like, man, wait 10 minutes. Because it's all about time and it's all about getting something in the right frame of mind to sell, right?
A lot of times, sales is a numbers game. Sales is for however many people you pitch or you speak to, only a certain, statistically normally a certain percentage would agree on the product or on the service or whatever. And how earlier in the previous question we talked out of 8 out of 10 people were quite neutral. 1 out of 10 would be very positive. 1 out of 10 would be quite negative on the offset. But that neutral ground, you're not going to sway everyone, and more often than not, the answers are going to be no. And sometimes people can say no in not always the nicest ways. So how do you always make sure you end those interactions with customers, and how do you always make sure you leave those situations as a good salesperson?
I kill people with kindness. The nastier you are to me, the nicer I am to you. I actually treat negative customers better than I do customers.
Yeah.
Because you turn the no into a maybe and the maybe into a yes over time. So I never want to burn a bridge. Ever. It doesn't matter how much of my time you've wasted. It doesn't matter how much, like, I don't want to burn a bridge. Unless you're super rude like the guy in the shop. I didn't care about burning that bridge because he rolled his eyes and it really riled me at the core of my tummy. And I'm like, I don't even want your money.
Yeah.
You know? I was a young guy. Now, I'd smile and wave and chat and point out that he'd done it and try and finish on a nice note. And I'm sure I was still nice that time, but, you know.
Yeah.
But don't burn bridges. My sales coach used to always say to me, it's like you turn the no into a maybe and the maybe into a yes over time. But the second you leave a bad taste in their mouth, you don't get another opportunity to sway them. And even, again, we're going to talk online. It takes, if you're doing email, cold calls, if you're cold call, now residential is its own little animal. We can get impulsive customers and we're there to handle objections and get attention. And that's why I think it's so powerful. When you go into email, TV commercials, meta ads, which is Facebook, Instagram, for those who don't know, TikTok ads and doing all that stuff, it takes an average of 7 times. It's called 7 touches, which means you promote something to somebody 7 times before they're a yes. And that's the positive people. So I think, like, when I've always sold stuff in Glasgow out with the 3 years I spent in Oz. But the job's easier now than it was 10 years ago. And that's because we've turned the no's into maybes and more maybes into yeses over time by being nice. The last thing you expect me to be when you reject me heavily is what? Nice. So I do the thing you don't expect me to do, which is just be lovely. And I tell you why I be lovely. You feel guilty. I give a wee bit of guilt to that because you rejected me. You threw what I was trying to sell back in my face, and I done the opposite of what you would expect to do, and probably has been done with you, which is I'm lovely to you about it. And I thank you for your time. Someone's really pissed. I used to love doing this. Love. When I learned this, when someone was angry at me just for approaching them, I loved when I learned how to de-escalate that situation. Some of my favourite sales have been the biggest no's at the beginning in the planet. I started to see them as a challenge. So you can learn how to sign up the 10%, which is positive, which is easy sales. Call them low-hanging fruit. They're just easy. They just... right product, right day, right time, and you just get free money, right? That's 1 in 10 people. You've got the 8 and 10 people that are in the middle and just meh. And you learn how to sway them by objection handling, being overly positive, like really building value and things. But then you've got, when you're unbelievable at selling, then you got the 10% that are just pissed at the world. My favourite customers to sign up. They became my favourite. I used to hate them. They used to make me lose my attitude a lot. I used to take it personally when someone would tell me to fuck off or someone would get really upset. I remember asking a guy one day in a bookies in Maryhill how his day was going. Boy, did I regret that. Boy.
Get an onslaught.
I get an onslaught. And I changed, actually, after that day, I changed how's your day going to how are you? I wasn't interested in people's days were going, this guy gave me an onslaught of negativity. I still sold to him. I remember going to a guy's door and they opened the door and told me all direct sales people were scumbags and liars and we all say the same shit, blah, 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 blah. I also remember him making me a cup of tea and signing up. How do I remember the 2 guys who all the sales I've done? Because they were really rude to me in the beginning. But when someone was really rude, as my sales coach that taught me this years ago, he used to say, kill them with kindness. Because we used to go back around the same businesses every 10 days. So you had to, if I piss you off, I'm never been able to come in your business again, or at least for a long time, right? And so we had to be really super good to people. And he always told me, look customers in the eye when they're really rude to you and put your hand in your heart, because it's sincerity, right? And this again, I am so sorry if I'm the one that made you this upset. I thoroughly apologise for upsetting you this much. I hope your day gets better. 99.999% of the time, the reaction I would get when I learned that. Because before I'd be like, all right, no problem, have a nice day, bye. And they're like, don't tell me, have a nice day. Fucking. And they take it as patronising. So you make it worse. You know, it's fun feeling a fire.
Yeah.
Oh, when I learned that, the amount of people that would look at me and go, oh, I'm so sorry for being so rude to you. I'm just having a bad day, man. And then they'd feel like a piece of shit for saying it to you. So then they go, what are you selling, man? And sometimes they would buy it to apologise. Just give me one. I'm sorry. My favourite sales. Because it was because until I learned, again, it's communication. When somebody's really rude to you when you try to sell them something, are they being rude to you? Nah. When the business person's rude to the person trying to sell them something that will help their business, are they upset at the salesperson trying to help them? Nah, they're probably pissed at the situation their business is in. You just don't. And one thing that we teach sales reps is you just don't know what's going on in someone's life. It's not a personal attack. Don't take it personally. If that guy had looked at me and went, your name's James Watson, blah, 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 and personally attacked me and my family, different conversation. But wasn't he attacking me? I just happened to turn up at the wrong time. Maybe he's had a bad experience or she's had a bad experience with other salespeople. The probability of that's pretty high. The industry's full of scumbags.
Yeah.
I have some of the scumbags approach me. I have people try and sell me stuff and lie all the time, or twist the truth or exaggerate all the time. And it does put you off. It puts you off. So I just don't know what this person's experience with people like me, if I'm calling up or sending an email, or people become numb to it. So, I'm going to get treated based on what their opinion is, people like me, based on past experience of people like me.
Yeah.
So I don't take it personally. I'm just lovely. Just be nice. Honestly, it's de-escalating and angry. There's no way. And I tell my reps to practice this. And I do this with my wife, and she'll tell you sometimes if I can control myself. If she's upset at me, I'll just look at her and say, I'm sorry, I love you. Sorry, I love you. Love you. Love you. Love you. I think my kids are angry. Love you. Love you. Love. And I'm just super nice. And it forces them to be positive and go, I'm sorry, I'm not in the mood. I'm sorry. Like a force of nice. Killing them with kindness is a super, I'm going to say superpower again. When you learn to do that with customers, we have people apologise all the time for being rude to us. All the time. Because you call them out on it. I'm really sorry if it was me that upset you. I'm sorry if it was me offended you. I'm so sorry if I offended you there. I really apologise from the bottom of my heart. I can see you're not interested. Oh, no, it's not that I'm not interested. You see people go, because again, if you're angry, and another thing I explain to sales reps to make them empathetic in this situation is, have you ever woke up and just wanted to set the world on fire? Yes, everybody. You just wake up and you're in a mood, and negativity loves company. So what do? You try and get other people to be miserable too. When you feel like shit, you want everybody else to feel like shit, because everybody else being happy when you feel like shit makes you more unhappy. So I'm like, there's not a person that's immune to that in the world. Sometimes I wake up and I'm not in the best mood, and I'll catch myself being grumpy for no reason. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person or I hate my kids or wife. I'm not in a good mood for whatever, or something else might be affecting me that makes me bad in my personal life. So I try and you're the customer as well. And if I knocked your door when you just found out you lost your job, or I sent you an email, or I phoned you up when you were watching your favourite TV show or your football team that weren't winning, how would you react? You're probably not good. Forget. So when somebody's rude to you and giving you a nasty rejection, it's not because of you. It's for some other reason, but I found a way of getting over that. It's just be lovely. And again, you might not win them over that time, but it doesn't mean I'm not coming back.
And I also think it's like going back to like the psychological aspect of it. Like I think again, don't do it for them, do it for you as well, because psychologically, if you kill them with kindness and you leave this conversation on a positive from your perspective, you then take that onto the next customer that you go and speak to. Because I think if you were to no sales professional should be engaging if someone's quite standoffish or
Sorry,
whatever.
shouldn't
They
be confrontational,
They should
no.
not be engaging
No.
and things like that.
No.
But if you walk away and you think under your breath, oh, what an asshole, or like, you know, you've reacted to their reactions in not always the most positive way.
Yep.
You take that emotion onto the next person you're speaking to.
Yep.
So I think from a selfish perspective, like you ending that, I would do it on recruitment all the time. Like even if someone was really rude on the phone.
People get triggered when you try to get them a job, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Unemployed people get upset because you phone them for a job.
Or, you know, if someone is not happy with you, that you phone them for something they've applied for, and they're quite rude, and I would always make sure I would leave that with, I hope you have a lovely day. Thanks for your time. Because not for them, it was for me, that is the last thing of that conversation that I take into the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think as much as you can use psychology on others in sales in terms of, you know, body language and tone of voice and all these little tricks, you can use it on yourself.
Yep.
And you can like hack yourself.
I agree. For keeping your attitude and staying positive, yes. There's actually another thing, and the reason why I do that was you're talking there as well. You actually sparked a wee thought in my head that people, and there's a thing wrote by Harvard University where it's a paragraph and it's the words are mixed up, and it's got the first and it's got, like, let's say the word the, it's got T and E and the H is something else, but you still read that because of the brain only recognises the first and last. You only really remember the first time you met somebody and the last thing you says to them. So that impression you leave in the cost. The last thing you say, have a nice day, will be the, no matter how angry about that, will be the last thing they remember of you. To the right, but it is an attitude keeper as well, because you feel. That's why I never go to sleep angry at my wife, and that's why I tell my kids I love them. No matter what happens, it's always, but the last time you see them is love you.
The last interaction is always a positive one.
Yeah. In case it's the last interaction.
Hey?
Just in case it's the last interaction. My kids all slag me for that.
Oh, that was got real quick.
Actually, I love you. My kid, every time.
You do that every flight, don't you?
Every flight I send all my kids and my wife a message saying love you. And then the kids were slagging me. Like Amy wrote the other day on it's a group chat evidently, and Amy's like, you can't be on another plane again, because I just come back from Spain and I was got to Birmingham. No, we're fine, I was got to Birmingham. And then Annie texts as Connor will joke sometimes, oh, Dad's on a flight again. And I'm like, there's a high possibility that this flight won't land, you know.
No, you're more likely to die from your trousers than your plane crash.
I know. So, but you know, but you don't get a signal up there. It's quite, anyway. So,
God, what a happy note to end this on.
I just think people remember the last thing you says to them.
And this is the last thing we're going to say
Think
to
about
everyone.
what people talk about with people. They're just, they're like, oh, the last time I seen them, we says this. So but it just shows how much you cling on to the last thing, which is my point. When you cling on to the last conversation with someone, so and no matter what happens with the potential buyer, I need the last thing for them to remember me to be a positive thing no matter what, because again, when I come back and they see the same brand again or hear the same product, it might even be the same rep, but the last thing they'll remember was something nice. Yeah. Might remember they were rude, but.
So what is the last thing you want people to take from this podcast?
I always say sales is the art of ethical manipulation, and it's learning how to grab attention, build value, and get people to take action. But it's a sport. And like a sport, you can play the game at level 1 or you can play the game at the Prem. You just choose what level you want to play at it, but that's still the fascinating thing for me. And I'm reading a book just now called Never Split the Difference, and I'm reading it 3 times. And I'm reading it to learn how to be a better salesperson. I don't actually do sales. For me, I'm learning it so I can pass it back on to other people. I've actually started using some of the stuff for the book and the conversations. And when I'm asking people to do things and it works, I actually learned new sales techniques in the past 6 weeks. Like when I'm asking somebody to do something, I don't say, can you do this for me now? I say, would you be against doing this for me? Because it's easier to get a no than a yes. And it's honestly, I genuinely feel like a superpower. I'm like, would you be against the idea of doing this? And I'm like, I'm not against it, which is the same saying they'll do it. And when I learned that, I'm like, oh, I never got taught sales like that. It's like I was always taught to get yeses. And then so even at the end of my 22nd year in sales, And this guy's not a sales guy. He's an FBI negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
He deals with people. And sales is negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to sell the idea of why you should give them ransom for this person, and they're trying to sell the idea of why you should give the person back for no money. And sometimes it's moral game, it's financial, but he's an expert at dealing with people. So it's a sport that even me, 22 years in, now why do I continuously make more money in sales? Because I keep getting better, because I keep learning. But I know some people that make the same money in sales as they did 20 years ago because they don't learn. But that's that. And that's the cool thing about that, is you're learning communication. And also, right, even dealing with my kids, anything new I learn in sales, I can use in my personal life. Getting tables at a restaurant, calling up with a late booking, walking in somewhere. I used to walk into the seamstress place or the dry cleaning place, and I was very good at getting them to do stuff that day for me. Now I'm going to use the, would you be against the idea? Would you be against the idea of me asking you to get this done for me today? I wouldn't be totally against that idea. Great. I just got a yes without even getting them to say yes. So and it's funny actually, because when I read that in that book, I remember doing the same thing as I did when I was a new sales agent. When somebody would teach me something, maybe do this. Oh, when somebody taught me how to yes roll somebody to make them say yes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of magic, just a word change. When someone taught me how to get someone's eye contact when they weren't looking by tapping the thing they were looking at, and I used to scratch my head a lot when someone wasn't looking at me properly. Like if you're not looking and you're looking down and reading something, I put my hand up like this to scratch this. I play with me and my hair a lot. It's habit now, and it makes people look at me. And I learned little tricks like that, and I learned how to get people to do something because I wanted them to do it. It's no different for how it felt catching somebody with a good punch or putting a ball in the back of the net. Same dopamine kick.
It's all a sport.
It's a game.
It is.
It's a game, but it's a really fun game. Like anything else, it's a game, right? I suppose if you're into it. So sales is a game. You're always going to learn. I still read books. I still want to understand human psychology better, human behaviours, buying habits, buying signs, body language, like all that stuff. I'm still totally trying to learn it. 22 years in and I'm still learning, and I would say I'm pretty all right at it.
You're not too bad.
But I know I could be way better because there's people writing books that know more than me.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep learning was the only thing I want people to take away. Like become a little bit, as you can tell by me tapping my fingers and getting excited, my wee bit of junkie. I'm quite obsessed by and excited by learning how to do this stuff. Because I look at it like we're going to use a superpower magic trick again. Like learning how to influence people, learning how to control people's thoughts and actions is an absolute superpower.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for listening. You can tune in Apple. You can tune in on Spotify and tune in on YouTube. Remember to press like and subscribe.
And Amazon.
And Amazon.
And on Android stores.
I'm on Amazon.
You're
Are
on
we in
Amazon?
Amazon?
You're everywhere.
We're everywhere.